Welcome to Cycl'n Vancouver. Hi, my name is Steve. I'm a 59-year-old guy, 6'5", around 250 pounds, who loves getting out on the bike and going cycling. Well, that and eating lots of baked goods. If you're interested in seeing what Vancouver looks like from the back of a road bike ridden by some spandex-wearing old dude, sit back and relax. This is Ride 368. Today is Tuesday, November 26, 2024, and it's kind of a special day for me. If you saw my last ride, then you probably remember seeing me crash while cycling in France. On that ride, I broke 5 ribs and my left collarbone. I also suffered a nasty concussion and spent the weekend in a hospital in the French city of Perpignan. All I can remember from that was the food at the hospital was actually quite good. That surprised me too, but then I realized I was in France after all. And if you haven't seen my last ride or you don't know what I'm referring to, check out Ride 367 and everything will make a little bit more sense. Today I'm heading out for my first ride since that crash. Being late November in Vancouver, I do have a chilly 6 degrees Celsius overcast day for this ride. I do have a route in mind for this ride, though it remains to be seen how my body is going to respond. I am hoping to ride around Falls Creek to Cypress Street and then ride Cypress south to the Arbutus Greenway and continue south to 57th Avenue, where I then intend to turn east towards Ontario Street and then follow Ontario north back to Olympic Village. Pre-crash, I would call this a very easy ride. Here is my Strava route map for this ride. So I saw my doctor last week. She took x-rays of my left shoulder and informed me that the collarbone was still not fully healed. She then set our next appointment for the middle of January 2025 and advised me not to lift any more than 5 to 10 pounds with my left arm. I told her that I planned to go out cycling soon. She didn't like that idea. I said I understood her concern about me falling and doing further damage to my left shoulder, but that I also had other concerns that were more important to me. Now, this is not the first time I've broken a collarbone. I broke the right one back on the Labor Day weekend in August 2019. I had just set off for what I expected would be an epic ride in preparation for the Whistler Grand Fondo the following Saturday. Unfortunately, after about 5 minutes into my ride, through an amazing act of utter complacency, I managed to very slowly crash into a curb, fall onto my right shoulder, and break the clavicle. A couple of weeks later, I had surgery to properly repair the break, and I didn't get back onto the bike until February 10th, 2020, approximately 5 months after that crash. When I finally went out for a ride on that lovely February day, I obviously expected some loss of conditioning, but I was not sure how bad it would be. I had planned a pretty optimistic ride for that day, starting with a warm-up ride around Stanley Park seawall. I then hoped to ride out to UBC and then do the full loop south to 57th Avenue, back east to Ontario Street, and then north into the city. As it turned out, by the time I got around Falls Creek to Burrard Street, I was absolutely exhausted and had to pack it in and head north across the bridge back home. I was shocked and not ready for that. Prior to the crash, I was in the best physical shape of my life, and yet now I could barely ride what I managed to do when I first started cycling back in 2014. Now, it's taken me a long time to get back in some semblance of decent cycling shape since then, though I've never gotten back to where I was before that crash. It was really hard for me to deal with it back then, and I cannot imagine going through all that again. Of course, the doctor did not know any of that, and even though I tried to explain it to her, she didn't seem to get how important it was to me not to go through that experience all over again. But I get it. Her focus is on the bones healing. Mine is on something else. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather suffer further physical injury than deal with the mental side of such loss. I did not react well the first time I went through it, and if I had to go through that all over again, I might just quit cycling altogether. For me, the only real bright spot from that first experience was that I started recording my rides to capture my experience trying to regain my form. And that all coincided with the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you've ever wondered about the numbering scheme for my ride videos, ride number 1 refers to that first ride on February 10th, 2020. And though I've struggled to regain my cycling form since then, my experience recording and producing these videos led me to actually explore the city in its entirety, and it also led me to try cycling in Italy, Andorra, and France. Though I'm not so sure I should celebrate that last one. While I knew there was some construction going on in this area, I haven't ridden through here in a while, and I was surprised to see 3 buildings rising up on the west side of the bridge. After a little research, it turned out that those buildings are being built on land owned by the Squamish Nation, which is part of the Coast Salish indigenous peoples that lived here at the time of contact with the Europeans. This construction is actually the first phase of what will be 11 towers, comprising something like 6,000 rental units when the Sinnock project is completed in a few years. When you add all that to the planned development along the Broadway corridor, Kitsilano is sure going to look a whole lot different over the next few years. I sure hope they remember to add in a few new cycling paths. That was a very disappointing ride. Though I wasn't sure whether I'd be able to complete my intended course, I sure expected to ride much further than the 10 kilometers I got in today. Not to mention the difficulty I had with a measly 50 meters of climbing. It looks like I'm back to starting over just as I did back in February 2020, and that really sucks.